Welcome back, Fire Tribe.
Header.
I have my hat on. Yeah, give it to Dave. You gotta head it. Bang.
Sean.
Okay.
Nice.
That was a firm header.
I don't know why I put my hands up when I was going to hit it.
Well, you're a goalie at
I was
heart.
kind of afraid of you, to be honest.
Player picks for game week 33 is what we're coming with today. Double game weeks galore coming up. This is why we built our team the way we did with our wild card a few weeks ago. We've been waiting for this moment. But before we jump straight in, how are you two doing?
Pretty good, man.
Juicy.
Pretty good. I'm a little sluggish from the past weekend,
Dave
but
was, you were out, right?
we went to a wedding for you golf fans out there in Kiowa Island, South Carolina.
Bougie.
Wedding was it was on the ocean course, so it was beautiful, a lot of fun, a lot of adult beverages across 3 or 4 days.
Nice.
Did you do your best Rory impression for all you English people out there? I know he's not technically
Whoa, McElroy.
UK, you know.
I was not. No, I did not. I was not prepared for the greens that we played on. If you watched me, you're like, Dave's never played golf before.
I bet you missed a few 3-footers.
I think I 3-putted like
Rory does that
a
too.
dozen times.
Yeah.
Rory knows how to miss a good 3-footer.
Allison knows how to win.
And have the
But
best hole in his life at the end.
yeah, props to
Yeah.
them.
What about you, Phil? How you doing?
Good. We also played golf while you were out. We played.
Well, thanks for the invite.
We played in Hawaii.
We played in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yep. So quick trip to a Hawaiian course.
Back. Yeah, we played a virtual simulator.
Yeah, I was Sim. That's a
everyone
joke
knows.
right there.
I
That
didn't
was
do
fun.
so well. That was a tough day for me. I couldn't
Yeah.
figure out the putting. I think I shot about
Putt.
plus 28.
That was a
So not great.
maybe had a few strokes too.
Putting on a sim is nonsense
You know,
anyway.
Phil took a couple of my putts and jacked my score up. So it's.
Oh yeah.
But it's fun time nonetheless.
Fun time.
But yeah, let's get into the picks.
We're gonna get
The pickety-pocks.
right into it. So before we get to the picks, I want Dave to give everyone the info on transfers right now.
Yeah, pretty much everybody getting transferred in is someone that's doubling, which I'm sure you didn't need me to tell you. Omar Marmouche is the number one transfer. He scored again for City, which is what you like if you have
Love it.
him.
I love it.
Bukayo Saka's back from injury. We'll talk about him a little bit later because some questions on. I want to get our opinions on if we think he's going to start or what. Morgan Rogers continues his good form. Kevin De Bruyne is another interesting one I want to talk about since he's started the last 2 games for City. Other than them, William Saliba, Josko Guardiol, Timber, Ollie Watkins, all guys we'll talk about here in a second. The outs is a lot of the same names. Some guys that have been injured, Justin Kluivert, namely. Some guys that have been stinking. Cole Palmer, namely, even though he did pick up an assist.
Yeah, it's just not enough.
Want to give him a chance. Isak's on there because he's not doubling. Matoma. Brian Mbumo, which is an interesting one. I think Phil and I want to talk about Brian Mbumo later.
Yeah.
But Chris Wood, he's still hurt. But not a ton of surprises
He's
on.
back.
Well, yeah, he is back, but
He's
he's
just kind of useless now.
it's the whole hip thing.
Yeah, plastic hips will do that.
Yeah,
too.
his
Plastic
looks
hips
ran
will do
out.
that to you.
We're being a little mean to Chris Wood,
Wow.
but
He's fine. He
I
makes
love Chris Wood.
he makes
I love-
millions.
I love Chris Wood. He's one of my favorites. Would it be funny? Would you guys watch it if KDB did like the LeBron event when he decided which team he's going to next year? His choices were like, I can go to Inter Miami, Al Hilal, or some other random team, and he just sat there for an hour and we just let him make a decision.
Yeah,
Would you watch that?
I would watch it. But
No.
You
no.
wouldn't watch it?
that would be incredibly
Did
boring.
you watch the LeBron one? Years
Yes,
ago?
I did.
That was incredibly boring, but you watched it.
Yeah, because I'm an idiot.
Okay, so
He learned
He's
his
grown.
lesson.
I'm learning, Sean.
But speaking of Al Hilal, our goat scored a brace.
He scored a bunch against like a bunch of 4th division
Yeah,
players.
but did you guys see that goal?
I did.
What a rocket!
Puskas.
Puskas.
Off the volley.
Give him the Puskas.
All right,
No.
let's just dive right in. We have some players we want to talk about that aren't doubling in case you're someone out there who doesn't have a wild card or you don't have enough transfers saved up to get all the players that you want that are double game weeking. We'll talk about those at the end, but let's start with those double game week guys because, like you said, Dave, those are all the players that are coming into people's rosters right now. Makes sense. We'll start with Arsenal. Arsenal gives Ipswich, and they get Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace defense didn't look great against Man City, so that could be two good matchups in a row potentially. But when we look at Arsenal, we're looking at Trossard, Martinelli, Saka, maybe. I know you want to talk about him.
Marino.
Saliba, Marino, Raya, and maybe Timber. He hasn't played much in the last 2 games, so I don't know if that's rotational or if he's hurt. But of all those guys, there's a lot of them to name. Who are you most interested in? Why are you most interested in?
Take it away.
I think the 2 easy ones that a ton of people are going to have are Raya and Saliba.
Yeah.
I think those are probably the 2 slam dunks for them.
Give up another goal in the 90th minute, maybe. Love that.
Well, yeah, just end the game like in the 85th minute.
Yeah, we'll be good.
Yeah, after that, it's pretty murky. I think like Bukayo Saka is like I'm not crazy about any of those 4 midfielders we said.
Yeah.
Now that Saka's back, it clouds the who's actually going to play picture a little bit more. I'm still not certain, to be honest. I think Saka's probably the easiest one to take a swing on, but he's also far and away the most expensive.
Yeah.
He did start in the Champions League. He has not started any of the 3 Premier League games.
That's the problem.
Same
with Timber.
You have to think that if they get past Madrid, it's an obvious statement. That's their sole focus for the rest of the season, and they need him in the UCL more than the EPL. So
Forest appears to be regressing a little bit, which is going to make them even more comfortable in that second spot.
They should waste no energy on the
so
Premier League.
Let's just say if you had to make a decision this week, you had to pick 3 of those players from Arsenal to put in your team since they're double game weeking. What 3, Dave, would you go for?
I have to take 3.
You have to take 3 because a lot of people are going to be looking to put 3 people from a lot of these double game week teams. So if you had to pick 3, who would you pick?
I think I don't love a lot of the other midfield options on the other 3 teams doubling. Yep. There's a couple good ones, but I'm not super confident outside like 2 or 3 guys. So I think I would take the swing on Saka and hope that he starts one of those 2 double games and gets subbed in the other one. He obviously can make a difference in a small amount of minutes, but like if I'm going to take a swing on a midfielder, like you might as well do that over Trossard, Martinelli, and Marino.
Yes. He can produce the most with the least. So
I know he's the most expensive, but yeah.
Move off a guy like Palmer if you want. Palmer's not performing. If you have Son, which I doubt you do, he's hurt. He has a knock, so you can move off him. I don't think a lot of people have him right now, but there are guys you can move off that aren't playing super well that are in that price range.
I'd say the obvious move is Palmer to Saka, but if you don't have Palmer, then it's kind of, to your point, Dave, kind of just a riskier pick. But
so that's 1. Give me 2 more.
Dos más.
2 more. I think
just of that team, right? You can go with Raya, right? Most people are going with Raya. You can go with the defenders if you feel they can get a shutout.
Man, I think Timber is probably the next guy I'm most comfortable with.
Okay.
He's in a little bit of the same boat. He did play 90 minutes against Madrid. Same. Like I think he's probably going to start one of those 2 games. He might start both. They have some injuries on defense. But if you're making me pick someone, that's probably the next guy I would take. I don't feel great about it though. I have to say. And then probably Marino.
So you don't want Raya.
Oh! I thought Ryan and Saliba were assumed.
Oh no, okay.
So, Ryan,
Saliba. We confused ourselves.
Saka.
Dave would take Raya. I was wondering why you.
Do you guys see what I have to work with?
Raya, Saliba, Saka from Dave's mouth to your YouTube. That's who he would take from Arsenal. Before we get any more confused.
Way to summarize that. Well, hey, pound me.
I love that. Man.
Maybe later.
Okay, second game we're going to talk about Aston Villa. Aston Villa gets Newcastle, and then they get City. 2 pretty tough matchups for them, on top of the fact that they are in the midst of the quarterfinal of the Champions League, so they have that mixed in there. Phil, I'll ask you. Aston Villa, we've said it many times, it's really difficult to figure out who is going to play on this team and when they're going to play, which is why they're so hard to pick players from this team. The obvious choice, I think, for most people is going to be Morgan Rogers, number 1.
Yep.
He's been very good. He seems to be playing most of the minutes. He might just be the most talented player on that team. But then after that, you're picking between Ollie Watkins, you're picking between Marcus Rashford, Konsa,
Asensio.
Marcus Asensio. If you had to pick, I think it would be tough to get 3 players from this team. So let's say outside of Morgan Rogers, you had to pick another player that you want for this double game week. Who are you most interested in? It's a tough one, I know.
Just one player?
If you were picking of one of those 3 that we kind of mentioned there, let's take Konsa out of it because I think we can all agree, tell me if I'm wrong, Konsa is a very good choice
Cheap.
for this double
Good
game.
choice.
He's very
He's a
cheap.
90
defender.
minutes
He's gonna play
guaranteed.
both games. If you're looking for a good cheap defender, Konsa is the obvious choice, I think. Right?
He's the safest bet of all their defenders to start.
Yes, and I think a lot of people are talking about him, so he's on everyone's radar right now. So let's pick up those other guys.
I think if you have the money looking at their matchups against Newcastle, and City, just Castle.
Just Castle.
If you have the money, Watkins is probably the way to go. If you need a cheaper option, I just don't know.
Do you think
I don't know between Asensio and
in the next 2
Rashford.
games, does Rashford get more minutes or does Ollie Watkins get more minutes? What do you think?
I think Ollie Watkins does.
You think Ollie Watkins?
Yeah.
Is that what you think? Dave?
Interesting. I think it's a coin flip between those two of who gets more minutes.
Which one of them is going to get the most? Not which one of them.
I think Ollie's going to get rewarded for his last game because he kind of has been shunned out of like the locked into the starting 11, and I think him scoring a goal, Asensio missing. So I think I would honestly knock Asensio out of it.
PKs, mentals,
That's tough. That's tough. So it's between Rashford and Watkins, and I think Watkins gets rewarded with at least 1 full start, probably 2.
I'll give you my point of view.
Please.
Rashford and Watkins are the two other two Villa guys after Rodgers that I want. I think Rashford has started up front in the Champions League, their last 2 games, Champions League and Premier League.
Yep.
So I think it's pretty safe, I'll say, to assume that, like, if you made me predict, like, Watkins will start one of the double games and Rashford will start the other one up front, I think they do want to get them both on the field together because, like, I feel like that's the next step for their attack, and they're trying to qualify for Champions League next year too. So I think I'd go Rashford, but it's pretty close between the two. I'm not opposed to using Rodgers, Rashford, and Watkins, if I'm being honest, and just take that little bit of a chance that, you know, one of those games, Watkins and Rashford start together.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to take one of them, you're going to get a start from one of them in, like, you know, less than 45 minutes from them in the other game.
Yep.
Yeah, I think to your point, UCL might very well be their driving factor right now. But you did say they're trying to get into the UCL next year as well. Both teams they're playing are Man City's 1 point ahead of them. Newcastle's 2 points ahead of them.
Those are massive
They
games.
are not going to not play their best rosters in those games. I don't care that the UCL is happening. All 3 of these games, they're going to give their best roster, I believe.
I think I agree with you. And if they get knocked out by PSG, which is likely,
That City
you know,
game, yeah.
there's no more midweek games for them to save for the rest of the way. I mean, obviously they're doubling in the middle of the week, but, you know, they won't have anything to save energy for other than the league.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the next game. Crystal Palace. They get Bournemouth, then they get Arsenal. That's another tough 2 matches, similar to Aston Villa. Crystal Palace just got thumped by Man City, 5-2. They came out hot, went up 2-0, but City just put the Jets on. So when we're looking at Crystal Palace, a lot of people have these players. I've seen this in most of the teams I've seen on social media. Everyone has Munoz, everyone has either Sarr or Eze, and everyone has Mateta. So I'm not going to ask the question of who you prefer, who you don't prefer. I think all 4 of them are good options. Munoz is a clear one of the best defensive options. Mateta, he had a bad last game. I think he's fine. Take your pick between Sarr and Eze. I do think you're flipping a coin. Eze is probably a little more solid in terms of doing it game in, game out. But I think Sarr can produce something out of nothing. Better than maybe Eze can. I don't know if I explained that right. But the point I want to make is, are you worried about any of these guys in this double game week? Like, if you were looking at those 4 guys, do you think we could see another Man City incident happening again, or was that kind of a fluke in your mind?
That's a fluke, and that's more just Man City kind of being old Man City, and when Man
Having a
City
moment.
plays and have their moment, it's impossible to do absolutely anything against them. So I think that's kind of a one-off game, and I wouldn't be surprised if all these guys have good returns in back-to-back games. So
Is there anyone else after that game that you saw, since none of those guys, well, Eze scored a goal? We're not Chris Rich. I love Chris Richards. We all do. He's American, but we're not thinking Chris Richards needs to be put into a roster, correct?
there's a staple four for Crystal Palace, and the pick is between Eze and Sar.
All right, well, let's go there. Let's go there real quick, because why not? Eze, Sar, very similar players. They produce pretty similarly. If you're picking one of those guys in this doubleheader, which one of those two do you want?
I think it's always come down to the money. If you have money and you can fit him in, Eze is the more consistent player and probably the guy with better chances of getting a return. Sar is the almost equivalent at a cheaper price. So to me, it's always come down to that between both guys, regardless of their streak of returns.
Dave, I probably don't even have to ask you the question. I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
Eze for me. I've been beating that drum all year. Hopefully we're starting to see some of the returns, follow his expected numbers that he had, before he had that little injury trouble in the middle of the season a couple months ago. But yeah, neither of them are bad. They're both good choices. If you have the money, I lean Eze. But Sar's perfectly fine if you have expensive options elsewhere.
Yeah. Take your nicest coin out and flip it and make your decision. That's pretty much where you're going with it. All right, Man City, the last doubleheader of the week. They get Everton, they get Aston Villa. Solid matchups, better than the last two teams, I think. So when we look at City, we are looking at, some people may look at Ederson. We personally are not looking at Ederson. Can we agree on that?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
We're not interested in Ederson. But outside of that, we're looking at Gavardiol on defense. Rico Lewis, I think we are all out on at this point. We don't want Rico Lewis. Gavardiol is the premier option on defense for them. And then in the midfield, this is where it gets a little tough because Foden was the guy that a lot of people were playing. He's struggling. Savinho is not getting minutes. Kevin De Bruyne just came out and had a really good game.
KPD.
But he has been very up and down this season. He's on his way out. So what do we think about that? And then not much to say about Marmoush. He is clearly the best player to have on this team.
Yeah.
So let's stick in the midfield then. If you have, before I say that, did you have any defenders outside of Gavardiol you'd be interested in getting? Because you'd probably get them over him.
Dave's going to give us the weekly Ruben Diaz.
I am because
all right. I shouldn't have assumed.
like Guardiol earlier in the year, he was getting an occasional attacking return, and he at least had some underlying, expected numbers.
Yes.
That's kind of dried up recently. So obviously City, if they play like they did against Palace, maybe he gets an assist or scores. But lately, him and Diaz are kind of the same when it comes to, you're sort of just hoping for a shutout. So another one, if you need to save money or if you're behind, Guardiol's 30% owned, Diaz is 3% owned.
Yeah.
So I definitely still would want Guardiol over Diaz, but I don't think it's out of the question to use Diaz.
I think you're right. I think I jumped the gun there. I think Diaz, to your point, if you are trying to catch up and you need a differential, that's a prime differential pick in a doubleheader. That's actually a really good pick.
The Everton game, they could very well get a shutout.
Yeah.
I don't foresee it against Villa, but
Gavardiol's expected goals and assists, to your point, Dave, have really dipped and probably are even under Diaz's. How do you even say that?
Diaz.
Is he Spanish?
No,
Portuguese.
Okay, close enough. You should really know this, Phil.
No, I'm saying Diaz is it doesn't matter. You know what
Not all Iberians are created equal, Sean.
Yeah.
Just meant because it's a similar.
No, I said, how do you say
grew up there.
the plural or the possession of
Diaz is.
Diaz is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Anyway, I like that pick.
Got a bug in the ceiling, man.
Woo!
Gotta get this place cleaned up.
Hey, another viewer. YouTube, capture that.
Subscribe, comment. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, into the midfield. This is the big question on where to go. Most people have been using Foden. He has a knock, 75% chance of playing, but even without that, he hasn't had a return in a very, very long time.
It's been a minute.
Game week 23 was his last return. He had a bonus point in game week 28, but no real return there. So he has not been doing well. I don't think any of us are comfortable with playing him injury, no injury. I just don't think we want to. Like I said, Savinho, the minutes are just not there. Is Kevin De Bruyne right now the premier midfielder on this team for this double game week?
Probably. Per the use of the word premier is pretty generous.
Premier for that team.
Yeah.
He's the guy that you would want over every other guy in that midfield.
Yeah. Like, who knows who they're gonna who knows who they're gonna start between Doku, Bernardo Silva. I mean, Savinho was the obvious choice not that long ago. He's played 8 minutes over the last 2 games.
I don't know what
Foden. I mean, like, are you really gonna play like Kovacic or Ilkay Gundogan?
No.
Probably
No,
not.
Gundogan.
Hey, Grealish
Like,
had
top 10 in
last
points
week, so that's
last week.
Yeah, Grealish scores and then proceeds to play 19 minutes across
Yeah.
2 games. So
Pep is just not making it easy on us.
I think De Bruyne is, especially since like they finally looked like City against Palace and De Bruyne, played really well in that game. That's like the most I have to go off of right now.
I would agree. I think it's a good farewell tour for him too, and
they need to get in the Champions
they
League.
need to get in the Champions League. Guardiola's always been a massive fan of KBD, so who knows KDB. So who knows if it's also like if he wants to keep playing and get a good contract, is this Guardiola giving him a favor? Like, I'll play you, show your quality, and who knows if he actually goes to a lower tier team. So I think he's the right option too.
Yeah.
First time since week 2, he's broken 0.8 expected goal involvement. So, but I don't think anyone out there is saying, oh, De Bruyne, I can't wait for him to just pop off this week. But at the same time, it's a double game week. We know historically how amazing he's been.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that I'm putting him on my team this week. I want him as a midfielder.
Can I make a prediction?
Absolutely.
3 returns in 2 games for KBD. KDB! It's KDB.
3 returns in 2
Three returns in 2 games.
So you think he's going to get, like, say, 2 assists and a goal? That's 2
Or
games.
3 assists or 3 goals, or 1 assist and 2 goals, or 2
You're
goals and
here
1
first.
assist.
You're
Or some
here first.
BPS points shenanigans.
Right here, right now, KDB, 3 returns in 2 games. Lock him in. You're welcome for the suggestion.
All right, I love that.
Woo!
That wraps up the double game weeks.
And just so, and we mentioned it at the start, but Marmouche is pretty much a must-have.
Yeah, I didn't even really talk
Nah.
about him.
Yeah, but you should have him.
You're a moron if you don't have him.
He and Mateta are the premier. I keep saying premier, but I'll say prime. The prime options for game week 33. They're both doubling. They're both really good. Put them in.
The moosh is loosh.
If you can put them in, put them in.
That's gonna stick.
All right, on to some of the players that we like that aren't double game week.
Ooh, sneaky,
Who maybe
sneaky.
didn't have a wild card, don't have a free hit. Like, these are some of the guys we're really interested in for this week, starting with the Brentford boys.
Oh, the Brentford boys?
The Brentford boys.
Sean, who are the Brentford boys?
Well, the Brentford boys are both bald, which is cool. It's Wisa.
Is he gonna go there?
Well, what? Maybe it's a choice. Maybe they
Damn.
choose to be bald. Maybe they're
No,
shaving.
in fact, you're gonna
I don't
keep
know.
like saying
Let's
like anyway.
say, yeah. Is it Brian Mbumo and Johan Wisa?
Yes.
All right. Just so we're clear.
Dave, I know that you've kind of been on these guys recently, been mentioning it, so why don't you tell the people why these 2 are good picks this week?
It's not overly complicated to me. I think we all, Mbumo and Wisa for the most part, have been like kind of consistent forces all season. We were jumped off them because their schedule got pretty horrendous.
And it shows.
Yeah. I mean, Mbumo he had a goal and assist in that.
I'm at the team.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They were like the shining light of a bad Brentford
Yeah,
team.
like Mbumo had a goal and assist in those 4 games. Wisa had a couple of goals, so like they still look like themselves. So I'm kind of backing on both of them. I think both of them are good options for, if you're going to have 3 guys from all the teams doubling, you'll have 3 people that are not doubling. And I think either of them are good options for this week, especially because we said we're not like crazy about a lot of the midfielders other than like Mo Salah.
Yeah.
So I think this is a nice time to jump back in on Mbumo.
And, on that point, right, we talked about it last week. We said if Leicester had a chance to score in any game, it was going to be this game against Brighton because they're missing about 6 defenders. They have no one left on their defense. So, Wisa and Mbumo, I think, have a really good chance of getting a goal this week. I just don't think Brighton, and they've just been playing poorly in general. Matoma looks like he has a knock. So Pedro's been a bit of a bright spot for them at the moment. Danny Welbeck as well, but I think they're going to score some goals, Brentford, in this game. But, Wisa, I didn't even realize he has, to your point, quietly been producing since week 26. In his last 7 weeks, 4 goals, 1 assist. The only problem I see is his expected per 90. A little low. It's at 0.48 expected goals, 0.07 expected assists. But he's cheaper than the majority of the forward options that you can get. Right? He's still a nice, cheap option. I think he and João Pedro kind of sit in the same category. Like either of those two guys, a little streaky, but for me, that Leicester matchup is...
Yeah, it's juicy.
The Brighton matchup is really nice.
Yeah, I would lean Wisa and Mbumo for that reason.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
And you can almost then they have Ipswich, Fulham, and Wolves to finish. I don't know, you said that before. But Wisa's been the 5th or 6th player with the highest expected goals across the entire season. So he scored right around what he's been expected. I think it's like 14 goals and expected 16. So he's had a sneaky year, and I think he's just not higher because he doesn't take PKs. But him and Mbumo kind of go hand in hand. So I guess question for you guys: obviously you can pick both of them, but if you had to pick one, would it fall into the same thing of? Do you go PKs? Do you go price? Like how do you pick between both of them?
I would go with what there's less of available this week. I think I would go on Mbumo because there's less available in the midfield position versus at forward. There's Mateta and Marmouche, easy, just 1-2, put them in and you're done. They're both double game weeking, so I'd probably look where I think there's just less solid players available right now, and that's in the midfield. So I'd go on Mbumo.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's PK, so
yeah, he's on penalties too.
That always helps.
Yeah, that helps. All right, so on to the next, the Wolfpack.
Woo!
The double game week, guys. We just said it. Those are the top forward options this week. Marmouche, Mateta, like those guys are just they pretty much are locks. But after that, you have to start considering Cunha and Strand Larson. Both of them. I'll put both of them in there. Yes. Well, Wolves are on an absolute tear. They've won 4 in a row. Again, they haven't lost in 5.
Figure that out.
In 5, I know. But to be clear, Cunha here is the better player. We can all agree on that. I think anyone that has eyes can see that. Cunha is an absolute stud. He got back in after the suspension. 20 minutes, scored a goal. Guy touches the ball, it goes in. It's ridiculous. He's really good. A fun stat that I saw is when you look at him this year, in all the games, if you take all the games he's played 90 minutes, I think there was one game that was like 88 minutes, but for this purpose, we'll say 90. So in all those games, he's played 21. 21 games, 90 minutes. He has scored a goal in 11 of those 21 games. It's 52% of the time. He scores a goal in 52% of the games that he plays a full game, and that's pretty insane. For a guy that's on Wolves, I think is maybe the big point I should make. This isn't Haaland, right? We're not talking about a guy on a massive club. We're talking about a guy on Wolves right now. He's scoring at a clip of 52% when he gets in the game. So, playing Man U, they stink. Top half in goals conceded.
Come on.
A lot of injuries. Just lost 4-0.
Whoa. 4-1.
4-1, sorry. And then they get a Leicester matchup. So, before I talk anymore, what do you guys think about playing Cunha this week? If you're looking for a guy, is he the number one forward option outside of the double game week, guys? To you,
I think he's
coming off the suspension.
Probably second behind Isak.
Behind Isak, okay.
And he did only play 20 minutes, so figure he probably starts. But it was worth noting that he did come off the bench and score. But yeah,
okay.
He's probably going to start.
Would you take Isak over him in this upcoming week?
I don't know about that, but I was going to say for Cunha, if you don't get him this week, then after next week going forward, you probably
He's perfect guy for your free
Must
hit
have.
yeah
in game week
must have.
34 if you free hit.
Yeah,
They play Leicester.
So not to leave the ugly stepsister in the corner, Strand Larson, who everyone forgets about when Cunha's back, which is fair. He's 1.4 million cheaper than Cunha, so I think he's also a really good option. He himself has 5 goals in his last 4 games, over 1 expected in his last 2 games. Not really sure what's going to happen. I kind of thought they might go to a 2 forward formation, but last game told us that's not what they did. Strand Larson played 80 minutes, came out, and Cunha went on for 20 minutes. So
I think they'll go back to playing Cunha behind him like they were.
okay,
But yeah, he's on a super heater, so
would you play him over Cunha this week? Would be the
Depends.
question. Him or Cunha? If you choose those two.
Cunha, but
You think?
depends if you need to save money and if you need to differentiate yourself. Strand Larson's 4% owned.
That's a big differential pick. Yeah, no one has him. I just think he continues to score, but it's not pretty what he's doing. So I don't know if people are really buying into it.
doesn't
yet.
have to be pretty.
I completely agree. It
Yeah, Wolves would look good.
Yeah,
Wolves
I mean,
are
we've-
on absolute heater.
we've said it. They always played much better than what their results were, even early on in the season when they couldn't win for like 10 games or whatever it was. At first, they kept tying or losing. So
Yeah.
what was
It was 10
It
games.
was 10 games, yeah. So they're a fun team to watch. I think it comes down to budget again. If you're looking to fit in a good guy that's going to get your returns at a cheap price, he should be like your number 1 target.
All right, and then I want to talk about the Newcastle midfield because I think this is going to be a topic of conversation going forward to the end of the season. So, Harvey Barnes
Cooking.
is absolutely cooking. Not many people have paid attention to him. Go look at how owned he is.
Tell us.
I don't have it
I'll tell you.
I thought I had it written down. I know how much Murphy is owned. 1%.
2%, but yeah.
2%.
Dos.
Harvey's
Div.
owned 2%, which is crazy that he's still owned 2%. Murphy's owned 17%. He's produced 29 points in his last 5 games. Harvey's produced 34 points in his last 5 games. He is the number 1 midfielder in the game. He's only sitting behind Strand Larson overall. So Harvey Barnes has been on an absolute heater. That doesn't even include these guys have a double game week. We're recording this before that game on Wednesday, so they could put up more points before that happens. But while he's been playing, or while these two have been killing it, Gordon's been out. Okay, Gordon is now back. He got a couple of minutes, and the question starts to become, what is going to happen with these 3? All 3 of them seem to be really good players. Barnes, just to give a little bit of background, only got good when Gordon got hurt. Game week 28 is when he first started getting minutes, and he's just popped off since then, the same week that Gordon got hurt. Murphy has also gotten a little better with Gordon out, but he was getting minutes before that. So Barnes has definitely been the guy that has taken the biggest step with Gordon out. All that to say, I know I talked a lot. What are you going to do if you have to decide between these two? But if you had to pick one guy to play this week, which of those 3 are you picking?
Murph sticks.
Murphy.
Are you doing that because you know he's a safe pick? Do you think that Barnes might go and get more points?
I'm doing that because Gordon and Barnes both play on the left. And so if Gordon... And now so we're doing this before their second game in game week 32, so
Let's see what happens.
keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
See how many minutes Gordon plays. See who they start. But like, if you're making me pick right now before we see that game, I'm going to pick Murphy. I just have more confidence that he's going to start.
So
I get it if you want to go with Barnes. He's been awesome, but that's what I would do.
He has been awesome. He has, in those last 5 weeks, Murphy's at 3.48 expected involvement. Barnes is at 4.15 expected involvement with a much better goal threat. So that's where I struggle because, yes, I agree that Murphy is the player I think is going to get more minutes, but Barnes is the more threatening player. He has a better chance at getting goals. The question is, what the hell is Hal going to do? No idea. You're going to bring Gordon right back in and replace a guy that's just absolutely killing it. It's a very hard question. I don't have an answer. But to your point, I think if you were going this week, you'd probably go Murphy. But after this week, and maybe after that Wednesday match.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting.
Might be a
see.
tell.
Very interesting. That's all I want to say on that. Didn't really want to pick any of them necessarily. I think just with the double game weeks, you probably find other players if you need to. Murphy's still probably the number one choice, but I want to give Barnes some love, man.
Give him love.
Wild. On to our last guy, Dave. This one is yours, Virgil van Dijk. You wanted to say something about him.
Yeah, real quick.
Not very good. So let us know. I'm just kidding.
POS.
No,
Really
just
good.
nothing overly complicated. I mean, Liverpool. Again, this is if you need a defender that isn't doubling, one of your slots of non-doublers. They do play Leicester in game week 33.
Yep.
So it's a pure shutout play. I know he scored against West Ham.
Leicester's kind of a scoring powerhouse right now.
Yeah.
They're heating up.
Enough.
2 goals in 10 games.
Not bad. Not bad.
But just real simple. Keep the Liverpool center backs, Konate as well. If you need, a defender back there that isn't doubling, those are probably my 2 favorite ones.
I'd almost try and fit one of them in. I think if rather than just trying to pick double game week guys and hoping and praying, because frankly we talked about it, 2 of those teams don't have fantastic matchups, so not the worst idea to maybe go for a guy that you think is going to get a shutout. Like if I'm looking at Aston Villa against Newcastle and City, I'm looking at Palace against Bournemouth and Arsenal. Chances at a shutout, kind of tough. So I'd be very interested in the best defense in the league playing against the worst offense in the league.
Yep.
That interests me.
Right on, Shawnee boy.
Right.
Do you want to talk about our team? Because that'll kind of take people through that logic, because we sort of just did this.
I do, Dave. I want you to tell people.
He wants you.
I want you. We could talk about it together. I just figured Dave's so good at summarizing things. So tell everyone what we're going to do going into game week 33. So everyone knows we set our team up a few weeks ago with a wild card for this moment. So you're going to see a lot of guys that are doubling. But go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so we also had 3 transfers coming into this week, which we're using. We're going Raya in net and Alphonse Areola, West Ham. Probably my favorite non-doubling goalie option because they play Southampton at home. On the back line, we're going Saliba, Munoz, Guardiol, and we're bringing in Ezri Konsa for Milenkovic to pick up the double there. We also had Timber in the back line, and we had a bit of a debate before the show if we should roll with Timber, given he hasn't started the last few games in the Premier League, did play 90 minutes in the Champions League, but we were pretty confident that maybe he's going to start one game and then sub in the other game. So for that reason, we did go Timber to Van Dijk on the back line. And again, playing that Leicester matchup. Bit of controversy. Maybe some of you don't agree with us on that, but that's what we're doing. Midfield, we're sticking with Salah and Murphy through the double. Neither of them are doubling. And then we did bring in Kevin De Bruyne for Bruno Fernandes. Also going Morgan Rogers and Ismail Assar. And then up front, we're going Mateta, Ollie Watkins, and the Egyptian Prince, Omar Marmoush. As far as who we're going to captain, I think that's probably still up for debate amongst us.
We need a few bourbons in our bodies to decide that.
We've entered in, we mentioned it, we've entered into a time where Salah is no longer the captain and just be done with it. There are some decisions to be made now with Salah kind of lagging off where he was. So I think that's going to be a call we're going to make later in the week. But hey,
it's probably going to be Marmoush or Mateta would be my early guess there. But
check out our Instagram
we'll see.
On Friday.
Let us know your thoughts.
I'll post it,
whenever this drops, comment.
Post it on there every Friday. So check that out on Instagram and let us know. That's it, though. We are good to go now.
That's it?
Player picks done.
Sure.
Player picks done. With these double game weeks, it makes it kind of easy, to be honest.
Just do this every week.
It's easy to be a content creator, boys.
So easy. That's why we have so many viewers.
Yeah. Where did our fly go?
All right, we're out of here. Find us on X. Find us on Instagram.
Twitter.
Find us anywhere you find podcasts and you can listen to us. If you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment on the video. Phil, I haven't asked you in a couple weeks. Why would they do that?
Because it's free. It doesn't cost you anything.
It really, really helps us out, and we appreciate it. If you don't want to comment on the video, reach out to us on Instagram. Reach out to us on X. We want to talk to people. want to talk to people.
They're like, yeah, I don't want to comment on this video, but
But
let me go to their
where's that
social.
Instagram handle? Yeah, with that.
See you.
Bye.